Okay, wonderful. So the workshop today is breathing through challenging times because that's what it feels like. Like it is it. These are challenging times, and breath is something that is so accessible. It really grounds us, and this is a tool that's available to us all the time. We can invite it at any time in our life, and that's what I want to teach you today: is how do you invite breath work and breathing in these challenging times. So the idea is this. I will cover some general overview with you. Take some notes. If you have a pen and paper, you may want to take some notes. And we have practices in between. So you're just not going to be sitting for the whole time. I would want people to move around. I would want you to stretch out a little bit. And we will do those practices in between. Some are seated practices. Some are going to be against the wall. And then finally, we will end up by having you on your back in the restful supine position. I know you'd like a little bit of meditation. So I'll do like a 15-minute guided meditation towards the end that will integrate breath and some of the other practices that I've been fiddling with for the past couple of years. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. And what I want to emphasize is there was a recent survey that was done about 3 weeks ago where a survey agency looked at what's happening with the COVID pandemic all across the world. So 7 out of 10 employees, and this is really work related. So 7 out of 10 employees indicated that the COVID-19 pandemic is the most stressful times of their entire professional career. This is like unlike anything that we have seen, and 88% of the workers reported experiencing moderate to extreme stress over the past 4 to 6 weeks. And from February 16 to March 15, prescription fill per week for antidepressants, for anti-anxiety and anti-insomnia medications increased by 21%. And what was astonishing was that 78% were new prescriptions. So I don't have to emphasize this. This is really happening right now, that people are hurting. And even within my yoga community, I know that the yoga practice, the practice of breath work, the practice of meditation, this has never been needed more than the present time that we are dealing with. So hopefully this brings you to some real statistics on what's happening around the world with the COVID pandemic. So who is this really for? I know a lot of you are yoga practitioners, a lot of you are yoga teachers. So this workshop is for those who are seeking to transform their mind, body, and emotions. Either you want to do it for yourself or for your clients, your students. How to manage your body, mind, and emotions through holistic practices, such as yoga, breathwork, and meditation. So if you are one of those, this really is for you to take all these tools in your own practice. Even if you don't practice yoga, you just are curious about how can you incorporate some of the breathing and meditation techniques. This workshop is truly for you. And what are you going to learn? So there's 3 simple things that I want to cover today. So number 1, I want to tell you how breathing and emotions are tightly linked together. So some of you who were on the masterclass, we dived really deeply into this topic. But what I want to do is I want to really give you a different flavor to that, how breathing and emotions are connected. Number 2 is how your posture, how you're sitting right now, how am I sitting right now? How does that posture relate to your breath, and how does that finally tie up to your emotions? How do you feel? It's very tightly regulated by how you sit, how you walk, how you act in the world, really physically. And then finally, I want to cover some simple practices. So how understanding these 2 things, how understanding, first of all, our posture and how it's tied up to the breath, and how is the breath tied up to the emotions, and how combining the 2, you can invite some simple practices in your daily life to energize your energy, to bring up energy, and to change your mood. So that's the 3 simple things that I'm going to cover in this workshop. So, too fast. For some of you know me, some of you don't. So my name is Devendran Ran. I am a scientist. I'm a yoga teacher. I'm a coach. And my mission is to empower my students. These are the practices that I use on a daily basis with my students. Empower them through mindset coaching, through powerful breathing and breath meditations to help them bring their vision to reality. So I want to begin by asking you a simple question, right? And you don't have to type an answer, but just think in your mind, which image do you or your students, your clients, your coworkers, your family members relate to the most right now? Is it A or is it B? For me, it's really a mixture of the two. Most of the time I want to feel like that openness, the image in the B that you see option here. But I just cannot, truthfully, many times I do feel like that image marked A. Now, I don't have to tell you, right? Even without telling you what do these represent, you can very well determine. If I showed you image A, what do you relate to? And if I show you image B, what feelings, what emotions does that image invoke? There's a very tight link between your posture and your emotions. Again, this is a new image that I'm showing you, but I don't even have to label this image. You know that when I show you an image like this, it's not a positive one. It's somebody that is experiencing certain level of stress and anxiety. Many times these postures, the postures of hunching your shoulders forward, like really losing the integrity of your spine, that is related to mostly a negative mindset or a negative emotion, versus something like this one, right? Where somebody is really open, right? You're creating space to expand. And that is labeled as a positive emotion and uplifting, a power pose that we call it, a powerful emotion, a powerful feeling. And it's really tied up to how you express yourself in the world. So many times, how we feel is expressed in our postures. What I will try to convey to you in this workshop is that you can reverse it, meaning you can change the expression of your posture to feel certain way, to feel empowerment, to feel the positive energy. And I think many of you may have seen this. This is a powerful TED Talk. If you have not watched it, I highly encourage you to go see it. The speaker is Amy Cuddy, Cuddy, and she did a little study now it's about 10 years ago, on how posture can change your chemistry. And what Amy Cuddy has demonstrated in her studies is something very simple. So her group asked a number of volunteers to assume what they call as power poses. So these are some of the power poses, like the Wonder Woman pose. This is what I want you to do right now, actually. I just want you to, as you're listening to this, I want you to keep your spine as straight as possible and just bring your hands to your sides. And just listen to me as I talk about this. So in the study by Amy Cuddy, they asked people to assume some of these poses, like the power pose, like the Wonder Woman pose, for 2 minutes. And they did a little swab of their saliva and ran a test on it. And what they found was amazing, that by just not even telling people what it means, just asking people to put their hands on their sides and sit straight, they were able to demonstrate that the cortisol level, the stress hormone in the saliva dropped significantly. Not only that, the testosterone increased and the behaviors of these people changed. So when these participants were asked to fill out a survey, they had more behavioral changes. They demonstrated more positive energy. They actually were also willing to take more risks than people who were asked to take negative postures or postures that were taking the power away from them. And those, we all know what those postures are. So really cuddling ourselves, like creating a ball of your body, are the postures that take away power versus the ones where you see this openness or where you want to create some space. I simply love the one in the middle. I mean, you can tell who's assuming the power pose or who is dominating the conversation. You don't even have to really understand the essence or even listen to or read the transcript of this conversation. It's as simple as assuming a power pose. And this is interestingly seen in the animal kingdom. So if you look at the definition of pride in the animal kingdom, I mean, the one movie that I go back to is The Lion King. If you've seen the recent animated version, like the real life version of Lion King, that's even better than the animation itself, where you can actually see like the pride that a lion takes or a lioness takes when he or she walks, right? There's a space that's created. That animal actually is occupying that space. And you can see it in other animals too, like a peacock, especially peacock with its in its full glory. If you watch a peacock, you can imagine how much space does it take. And especially in the movement of the head, for these animals, watch their head, watch their neck, and you'll notice something very peculiar, that their neck is lifted up. The gaze is really not down, but perhaps to the front or up is where they are looking at. So these are power poses even in the animal kingdom. And the number one thing that's hurting us right now, especially right now, we are so attached to technology. I've been working from home and I've been checking my cell phone so often. Like, this is the number one posture that's hurting us, and technology is hurting us, especially the cell phone use. This is the forward head posture called the FHP. And what happens is anatomically, let me dissect this a little bit. So anatomically, if you look at the left picture here, that's the anatomically correct posture. And we will go deeper into it because we will really dissect it and make sure that we understand how to come into this pose. But if you deviate from that posture, if you have a head that tilts 15 degrees, you are adding roughly 27 pounds of weight on your back. So for every inch of your neck or your head tilting forward, you add 10 pounds of weight. So if you bring your neck 30 degrees, that's 40 pounds of weight. 60 degrees, that's 60 pounds of weight that you're carrying on your back. No wonder why our shoulders feel so tight for all of those who are working from home or taking yoga classes or trying to work with your clients. This is because of that forward head posture. And there's a name for it. There's a name for it with all the eye devices around, right? They were given it a name. It's called the eye hunch. It's called the eye hunch posture. So what's happening? Like, 4 things that are happening. Number one, if you look at the neck muscles right underneath here, so overworked muscles down the back of the neck. These muscles are strained constantly and they're shortened. So you feel the tightness in the neck muscles right below the neck. If you go to the middle and the low back, you're not supporting it. You're not creating the posture. So these muscles are becoming weaker, especially the mid back and the low back. And hunching the upper back, the joints actually freeze. When you do that, you have the spinal column actually begins to freeze and your shoulders begins to freeze. And finally, the muscles at the front of the neck, since you're not working the muscles when you hunch forward, I hope you can still see me here. When you're hunching forward, you're not using these muscles. And with muscles or with bones, if you don't use it, you lose it. So these muscles in the front of your chest becomes weak. What ends up happening is if you watch people how they walk, watch people how they stand. And the question really becomes, what does this do? So forward head posture can lead to some of these things. So you can have neck pain, you can have a headache, you can have a temporomandibular pain. So your jaw actually can begin to hurt. You can have pinching or trapped nerves. And you will see, like many times what will happen is your you will have this tingly sensation, or your hands will become numb. And that could really very well be because your posture is not correct. Many times people will get dizziness because of those trapped and pinched nerves. There would be dizziness and vertigo symptoms and balance issues. So what does this have to do with our breath? And I recently came across this really nice anatomical rendition by a yoga teacher. I think he's out of Greece. Leo Papas is his name. And he kindly allowed me to use it. So I'm using the picture with his permission. But I really love this rendition of the anatomical drawing of what happens when you have this forward head posture. And what the chiropractors call it, the left side is a C shape. They call this a C shape of the spine. What the spine should look like is a S shape, which is the correct posture. So forward head posture results in weakening of the respiratory muscles. And here's the reason why, right? I showed you in the eye hunch image slide as well. Because you're not using a lot of your muscles in the front of the body, there's extensive amount of work that's being done at the back and the neck side. That's why they are stretched and they become very stiff. But the frontal muscles are not being used. And if you're not using these muscles, they become weak. So your respiratory function is compromised when you have the C-shaped spine versus the S-shaped spine. And what I loved about Leo's anatomical rendition here is this. He actually showed the lungs and the attachment of the lungs. And if you look at the attachment of the lungs, if you're able to see my pointer here, first of all, you look at the sternum, right? So this is the rib cage, the front of your chest, and that's your lungs are actually directly attached to the sternum. And they are also attached to the side, and that's not clearly shown here, but you can imagine that it's also attached to the sides of the rib. So the intercostal muscles, and there's a direct connection between the lungs, or the basket of the lungs, to the sides of the intercostal muscles and the rib cage. Then if you look at another attachment, that attachment is actually to the diaphragm. There's a physical link between your diaphragm and your lungs. And we'll explore this further later on. And then also, you will see that your lungs are actually attached to the spinal column. So when you collapse that posture here, you actually compress the cavity. You're compressing the thoracic cavity. There's not much space there. I mean, you can also, in the image itself, you'll see that there's not space there. And when you extend your chest forward, when you open your rib cage, when you bring your shoulder blades together, you begin to actually stretch those muscles and create space. Right? So there's a little bit work that needs to be done, because honestly, you can breathe very silently here, but you won't breathe deep. The breath will be very shallow and restricted to the upper lungs. But when you stretch the muscles out, that's where you create that space for the diaphragm to descend and the lungs to expand. So forward head posture results in weakening of the respiratory muscles. And here's a little bit deeper analysis of it. So the mobility of the lower thoracic. So these are the low lungs. You look at the partition of the lungs next. For the lower lungs, the mobility of the lower thoracic during expiration significantly reduced with the forward head posture. Okay, so the low lungs cannot fill. You will have a lot of upper thoracic breathing, and that's the breath of anxiety, right? That's the breath that if you watch somebody breathing heavily, you would notice that during anxious time, this is where we breathe. Versus there's a lot of lung capacity in the low lungs and in the back, which are compromised if you don't keep the spine straight. And here's another shocking point, which is forward head posture may result in the loss of 30% of the vital lung capacity. So imagine that, 30% of the vital lung capacity being taken away from you or your students, your clients, by just their posture like this. And one final thing. So here again, anatomically, if you look at the lungs, there are these different partitions of the lung. So that the three main partitions on the right side, and you have two partitions on the left side. But we call it the superior, the middle, and the inferior lungs. So the lower lungs, the inferior lungs, have 18 times more blood vessels attached to them and 3.5 times more oxygen that can be absorbed by the lower lungs versus the upper lungs. And by doing that simple arching of the back, you're taking away that capacity. And by really straightening the sternum, you have 18 times more capacity. So think about that, like the exchange of the oxygen that is required. That's why when you go in the yogic literature, they're talking about the breath should be what? 3 things, right? Slow, fine, and deep. What does deep mean? Deep really means that you need to pull the diaphragm down. You cannot breathe into the belly, but the sensation of the breath, that it goes into the belly. And that's important because that fills the lower lobes, the inferior lobes of the lungs, and that provides 18 times more oxygen exchange that takes place because of all the capillaries that are available in the lower lungs, and 3 times more capacity of the lower lungs to absorb oxygen. Okay. All right. So then another step, right? I told you 3 things that I'm going to teach you today, right? That's one thing that I've covered. Number 2 is, how is this related? How is breathing related to emotions? So I really nailed on this during the master class. But for those who did not attend that one, what I can tell you is this: like, there is now scientific basis that our breathing, our emotions are actually neurologically related. They are coupled together through a neuronal subpopulation. And if you remember, these are called the pranayama neurons. Actually, the scientists who discovered the junction between our breath and the neurons, they took the neurons and they called the subpopulation of the neurons pranayama neurons, because they act like a switch. So when you feel anxious, your breath picks up, and it is through the junction of the subpopulation of this neuron that this action takes place. So knowing that, and knowing that our posture affects our breath, so we know that when breathing is compromised due to incorrect posture, it can directly influence your mood. And you don't have to be a neuroscientist, right, to understand this. Like, just imagine that someone who feels really low, how the breath feels. It feels really shallow. Versus if you want to feel a lot of energy, you can do a lot of thoracic breathing, quick thoracic breathing. So in pranayama, if you do kapalabhati, that's really quick breathing. And what does Bhastrika is another one, right? It's really upper chest, collarbone breath that allows you to energize. Within few rounds, you feel a deep sense of energy. Versus if you pull the breath down and deep, you can feel the sense of relaxation. So posture connected to breathing, breathing connected to emotion. So posture is connected to emotion, right? This is a tight loop that is formed. And we're going to now, so what I'm going to do now is, let's dive a little bit deeper into see how you can correct it for yourself and how you can correct it for your students. All right, so how to diagnose the posture. And what I'm going to do now is, I'll show you something and then we'll do an exercise on the wall. How about that? So then I'll stop presenting and I'll share the slide deck again. So what I'll show you is this. This is how we'll diagnose it for ourselves. So since we've been sitting, we'll do a little standing practice here. So just listen to these 2 pages. So the way to diagnose is this. So what we'll do is we'll find a place near the wall, and you'll come with your ankles, your heels are going to be about your armpits width apart, so slightly wider than your hip. And what you'll do is you will lean back, and the way that you lean back is press the back of your heels against the wall. You don't have to have the perfect body straight, but what I would like to do, and I'll demonstrate, is you will take your shoulder blades and you will touch the shoulder blades against the wall, and you will touch your butt against the wall. And then what you will notice is how much gap there is between your head and the back of the wall. Because that gap really tells you how much of that forward head movement you will. And you will see it in my example. Before you go, I'll show you my example, and then you can do it for yourself. And what we will do next is we will correct that pose, right? So the way to correct it is you will gauge for yourself how much gap there is. And then what you will do is you will touch your head back. And then we'll do a little play with our chin to show you how to correct that posture. Okay? So what I'll do is, so the way to diagnose it is you go, as I said, your heels are going to be armpits width apart. And then I'm going to press the back of my heel. You cannot see my feet, but my the back of my heels is pressing, then my butt is pressing. And what I'll do is I'll just make sure that the um, the shoulder blades will press against, and I'll leave my hands there. And now watch the gap between my head and the back of the wall. There is a gap here, about I'll say half an inch. So I do have a forward head movement here, because if my posture was completely, perfect, what would happen is my head would be touching. Now I can touch my head. So this is my normal posture. My shoulders are slightly rolled forward because of all the computer work that I've been doing, right? And you can see that my head is about half an inch. Now, in order to correct it, what I will do is I can take my head and place it against the wall, but that's not correction, right? Like my gaze will lean up if I do that. The way to correct it is this. I will touch the back of my head against the wall, and then I will tuck my chin towards my chest. Watch the lengthening that happens at the back. I'll do it again. This is my normal posture. Little gap, press against the wall, tuck the chin down, and watch the extension that happens at the back of the neck. To me, it feels like I'm leaning back, but this actually is my neutral posture. And you will notice what happens with the neutral posture. My front of the body is open. Now my chest cavity is open, and I can breathe freely here. So come to a stand. Maybe you just do a quick check on you to see where you are, and do it methodically, right? So make sure that your heels are slightly wider than your hips, or just under your armpits. For some of you, it could be smaller than your hip width. Press your buttocks, and then take the shoulder blades, press your shoulder blades back. Don't worry about the front of the shoulder. They may arch forward. I want you to press the back. And just stand with your head straight. If your head is touching the back, you have a good posture. But the further away you are from the back wall, the more forward head tilt you have, forward head posture you have. And then the way to correct is press it back, tuck the chin in towards the chest. And that's the way to correct. So how do you correct it, right? We identified a posture. If there is a posture is a little bit misaligned, this is how you do. So you stand against the wall like this for a minute. Let's do it. Let's do it. If you're up for it, let's do it. Another thing that you can do is, if you want to challenge yourself a little bit, and you will feel this. Especially men do feel because the shoulders are really tight, but women, you can feel too if you are working on computer. What I want you to do is bring your hands to cactus arms, and make sure that the back of your hands are touching completely, right? So your lower arms would be touching, the back of your fingers are touching the wall. And now what I want you to do is, with this corrected posture, it's really challenging for me because I'm really tight on my shoulders. What you would want to do is, you would want to lift your arms up, but keep them glued to the wall, keep them touching to the wall, lift your arms up. Oh, there's a lot of tension in my back when I do that. I can't even straighten my arms. That's all I can do. And I'm going to bring my arms back to a cactus arms. So that's a little bit an advanced version for correcting your posture. If you have perfect posture, you should be able to just lift your hands, and the back of your hands should touch the wall all the time. And you should not feel pain in the back or in your neck. What I want to do next is how to correct. So let's do some correction exercises. So I showed you some against the wall. You can stand with the correct posture against the wall. But there are certain things that you can do to help. And again, if you're a yoga teacher, you may want to, you may already be doing it with your students. So a couple of things that I want to do is, and I'll dissect the pose in the seated. We'll do most of these positions seated, so you will see how the correct posture is made with the seat. But what I want you to do is, if you're sitting on a chair, I want you to come to the edge. And we'll do a few exercises. Your thoracic cavity is attached to a lot of muscles, your neck particularly. So when you talk about breath muscles, it's not just the diaphragm. It's not just the lungs. There are so many other muscles that, like in the anatomical depiction of the lungs, how they are hanging in there. They're not actually hanging; they are attached at different positions. Your neck muscles attach to the topmost, so your collarbone and to the first rib that you have. Your neck muscle is directly attached to that. So when you have tightness, when you have the front head posture, there's a lot of tightness in the back of the neck, and that creates tightness in this area and the shoulders. So what I want to do is I want to release that first, and it's very simple. Like you do the head tilt, right? So those are the very simple exercises to release the neck muscles, and especially the tightness that you feel in the first rib in your chest. So what you want to do is bring your right hand up and over and place it over your left ear. And with the weight of the hand, do not pull, just take the weight of the hand and let your right ear come towards your right shoulder. Keep your neck straight though, keep your back straight. What do you do with the left hand? I want you to take that left hand and release it down towards the floor. And really let gravity take over here. Don't do anything, don't pull. Just surrender your left arm and your left shoulder to gravity. With every exhale, what you notice is, notice the tension in the left side of the neck muscles. And as you release, as you exhale out, notice how you experience a little bit lengthening in that muscle. Just be aware. Now keep your neck there. I want you to take your right hand and bring it to the side. Keep your neck there. Take your left hand and bring it to your back. And with your neck tilted to the right side, I want you to shift your gaze to the right shoulder. So turn your neck so that you can begin to see your right shoulder and past it. And this is a different set of neck muscles that's attached to your sternum. And with this exercise, you're opening those, you're stretching, you're lengthening those muscles. Now, in order to come out, I want you to bring your fingertips on the right side to your temple. I want you to prop your head up. All right, let's do the other side. Left arm up and over. There's two-part exercise, right? Let's do the first one. Let the weight of that left hand pull that neck to the left side. And what do you do with the right hand? Just surrender that right hand to gravity. Can you soften that right shoulder? And let your right arm be pulled down towards the earth. It's not about pulling the neck. It's about releasing the right shoulder. You begin to feel a deep stretch if you practice the art of releasing the right shoulder. All right, let's do part two. Keep your neck there, keep your head there. Release the left hand down. Take your right hand, bring it to your back. And then tilt your head or just turn your head to look past your left shoulder. Keep releasing the right shoulder. Just notice, be aware of this. Such a deep stretch in your neck muscles. One of the most complicated set of muscle systems are actually in your neck. That is why posturing the neck and making sure the head is straight is so important. All right, let's take our fingertips. Let's bring our head up. All right, we're going to do a counter immediately. So what I want you to do is clasp your hands, your fingers, bring it to the base. Let me turn around, back of your, so just head back of your head above the neck here. what I want you to do is pull with the weight of the hands. Don't pull, just let the weight of your hands do the work. Your chin is tucked towards the chest. Your back can be slightly curved. Don't overly curve it though. Keep it straight. Let me show you from the side here. Be gentle, don't pull. Just let the weight of your hands, your arms do the work here. All right. Before you come out, release your hands first. Keep the neck there. Don't rush. Many times when you rush, you get like a vertigo kind of symptom. You get a head rush there. Take it slow. Lift your head up. Okay, one more thing that you can do is, I think you can see my back wall there. So I'm just going to go to the back wall. You may still be able to see it. So another set of muscles is your the attachment, the shoulders, right? So shoulders are attached to the sternum. You can feel these muscles right here. And these muscles get tight. When you hunch forward, these muscles will lose its strength. So you get and when you do this, you get a lot of tightness, a lot of stretching. So a lot of times shoulder opening is also good. So I'll just show you this. If you want to try, you can do it. But find a corner of the room. And what you want to do is come to cactus arms on the right side. I'm going to press my right shoulder against the wall. And I'm going to turn my body to the right. So you notice the stretch that happens on the right side of the shoulder. And then to do the counter, I just take my left hand. You should be able to see this one. And I just turn my body the other side. Ah, this is beautiful. So Nicholas Riley, I don't know if it's right. Mary Nicholas. I'm taking a breath course with her, and she talked about this recently. And that was so amazing. I was just blown away by this analysis. And she was talking about posture. Like the best athletes in the world, they use gravity and posture to their advantage. So we're now going to go into how to position ourselves, or how to, when you sit or when you stand, how do you correct the posture. So I'll go through it. But Usain Bolt, amazing sprinter, world record holder. And if you look at his posture, this is a very interesting picture. Look at all the other sprinters. Look at their body posture. What you will notice is that everybody has their head forward, like the forward head position. Like everybody has their chest forward, their head forward, and their eyes are down towards the floor, towards the track. Usain Bolt, look at his posture. His posture actually is upright. His gaze is forward. And in yoga, we talk about Udana Prana, right? Usain Bolt is a master at bringing or harnessing Udana Prana, which is the prana that allows you to work with gravity, right? So it gives you the feeling of that anti-gravity feeling, the uplifting feeling, the weightlessness feeling. So this guy uses if you watch his arms, he will pump his arms. His body is completely upright because he uses the posture to his advantage. He gets, and the way that he does it is this. His key is this. What he gets is elevation. So if you watch these two guys here, Chambers from Great Britain and Bolt from Jamaica, both are about the same height. But what Usain Bolt can do is his posture is upright, and what he does is he can lift himself up. Look at how further away from the ground he is. He's a couple of foot away from the ground versus some of his competitors. So what he's able to do is he's able to use the posture to his advantage, and he creates this flotation. So this guy is not running, he's flying. And it's just biomechanics, the way that he has understood his body with the upright posture, he can create that levitation feeling and he can propel himself forward. So I thought this was when I actually went through it as a scientist, as an engineer, I was like mesmerized by the analysis to say this is amazing that just simply a body postures can make a profound impact on the. Let's talk about posturing now. So let me talk about the analysis first here, and then we will practice it. So if you look at meditative practice, especially these ancient statues of the Buddha, and what you will notice is that if you look at the ear, so if you look at ear and drop a line from the ear to the shoulder, that's in line. Like these images are these statues are so beautiful, because if you look at the chin, it's not like chin is out. Actually, the chin is slightly tugged. And whoever sculpted this is incredibly precise, because you can even see those wrinkles in the neck. If you look at my arrow here, I'm pointing to this first statue of Buddha here. And if you see the neck, you'll see the skin wrinkles that are formed because the chin is actually pressed back towards the chest, and the back of the neck is lifted. So the ear, the center of the ear is in line with the shoulder, and the shoulder is in line with the hip. That's the straight line that's created. And that's the perfect posture that we want to create. Okay, so let me stop this, and we quickly come back to me here. So let's analyze this. So what happens during the forward head posture? This is a forward head posture. Let me show you from the side. That's the forward head posture. Your shoulders are down. So look at my ears. Ears are not in line with my shoulder. So the number one thing that you want to do is, before you correct this, what I want you to do is take your hands to your rib cage. Let's go, everybody find your rib cage. So if you go to the center, there's a sternal notch here. There's a little dagger that points down. If you go out to the low rib cage, find the two lowest points. Like these are two hanging points in your rib cage right here, right? I want you to take those 2 points, okay? Just keep your hands there. So this is my forward arch movement. If you do this forward head, what happens is it's like those daggers are actually poking against your visceral organs, and you're compressing everything. This little movement here will actually take away the space. So it's compressing your belly, your stomach, your liver, everything is being compressed. Your lower lungs are being compressed against the visceral organs. So these 2 points right here, what I want to do first is I want to press those 2 points out. So it's almost like you're lifting those 2 points up. Don't worry about the back. What I want you to do is just take those 2 points and release the 2 points forward, bring them forward. And automatically what happens is your back straightens. That's number one, okay? So let me show you that. So that frees up the low lungs right there. Then it still doesn't correct my neck, right? Because I can have this posture, but my neck could be down. So what I'm going to do is take my right hand and place it back. Let me lift it up here. This is called the occipital area. So little bone here is the occipital bone. What I want you to do is I have lifted the rib cage up. Take the hand against the occipital area. I want you to press your head against your hand. Okay. So that lifts my head up. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll keep bringing it back till my chin is back. All right. So you bring it, and now watch. Now hopefully my ears are below just under my shoulder. And the final thing you do is you take your hands to the crown of your head, and then you lift up. Remember that little tuck we did of the chin against the wall? So tucking the chin against the wall, remember the statue of Buddha, right? The little wrinkles that are created at the neck, that's created because you're tucking the chin up and back. You're lifting the crown of your head up, as if there's a string attached at the top. As if there's a string attached at the top and somebody's pulling that string. So your neck can be here, pull the string, neck is here, okay? And now if you look at that posture here, you have ear, shoulder, hip. These would be in line, okay? Everybody good? Yeah, all right. So that's the posture correction. So remember, when you in your yoga classes, some of you teach when you say, oh, straighten your back. Think it differently. Think about the 2 points in your low ribs think about bringing those points, freeing up those points, because when you free those, you free the visceral organs. You also engage the core muscles. So the rectus, when you do this, your rectus abdominis, which is the muscle that connects your chest to the groin area, that's not engaged. But when you straighten your rectus abdominis, I mean, just watch that. If you just keep a straight spine, the correct posture, this is a little bit tighter. And there's nothing wrong with being tighter because you're working. When it's tighter, and when I teach you to fill down towards the low lungs, you will feel the resistance. And that's what creates all the oxygen exchange that happens, the filling of the low lungs that happens. It's because you're creating a little tension here. Okay. So that's the posture. Now what we do is, let me show you, maybe we'll just do it. Why should I show you the image? Let me just, I can talk about this. I don't need to show you the picture. So attached to the rib cage is your diaphragm. It's like a, the way it's explained is like a parachute dome shaped muscle. It's a double dome muscle, by the way. It has two domes on each side. But when you breathe in from that rib cage, the diaphragm is attached all the way back to the spine. When you breathe in, the diaphragm descends down, okay? And your lungs expand. So that's how the lungs fill. The most amount of space the lungs has is at the bottom and at the back, okay? So you have the diaphragm descending down that will expand the lungs and fill the lungs in with the breath. And when you exhale, the diaphragm actually ascends back to its original position. So it's relaxing back to its original position, and you are contracting the lungs and pushing all the air out. All right, so we're going to experience what's called the diaphragmatic breathing. What I want you to do is this. Come back to our, the erect posture, right? So release, occipital, push it back, tuck your chin in, lift the crown of your head, right? That's your posture. Take your hands and bring it to the low rib cage. All right, now what I want you to do is breathe as if you're breathing in between those hands. So create some resistance with the hands, press your hands in, and breathe as if you're going to push the hands out. Make sure you're sitting to the edge of your seat and not to the back. Be aware as you fill in, as you fill out. Notice what is engaging. You'll notice that the low abdomen, the low lungs are engaging more. You do very little work with the upper thoracic. Most of the work is done down at the belly level, at the low rib cage level. This is the thoracoabdominal, or mostly the diaphragmatic breathing that we talk about, the belly breathing. We're doing a little bit thoracic, but it's to the side. The way it's explained is that imagine a circle and imagine expanding the circle all around. Now imagine that circle is actually at the low ribs, and you need to expand not only the front, but also the back. So your thumbs should feel the pressure too when you're breathing. Maybe you can also try releasing the hands. See if you can bring the same quality by releasing the hands. For me, having the the hands are much better than releasing the hands. I feel a little bit resistance, and that allows me to breathe with intention at that place. All right, keep your spine straight. One more thing I want you to do is bring your hands to cactus arms. Now, what I want you to do is pull your elbows down and press your shoulder blades together. And breathe. Make sure your head is not tilting forward or hinging forward. Keep your chin in line with your chest. Breathe into the belly, breathe into the mid lung. So you just you breathe in your low lungs. I want you to also experience the breath in your middle lobes. And slowly begin to release. So hopefully you are beginning to see how the changing the posture frees up your breath, right? Because as I began with some of the slides that I shared, I told you how incorrect posture is compromising your breathing, and how compromising your breathing then relates to all the emotions that we don't want in our life. And by just making these simple changes in our posture, by just sitting straight, by breathing, by letting the diaphragm descend down, you can create a lot of space, and you can fill all that space. There's a lot of lung capacity in the lower rib cage. Okay, so three-part breath. We already talked about the breath in your. So this is how you'll set up. By the way, I'm just demonstrating how you'll set up. I asked you to take a pillow, and you will take that pillow. Don't do it right now. Just watch this. You will take that pillow and put it under your knees to release the psoas, because if you straighten the legs, it's hard for you to breathe because the psoas is stretching. So just lifting the knees up will allow you to relax the psoas muscle. So psoas is basically connecting your upper body to the lower body. Okay, that's a really big muscle. And you will put something under your head. So this is the relaxing posture that you will come down to. But the three-part breath is this. So if I divide the breath into three circles, okay, and then imagine the circles actually are integral to each other, right? They're not separate. So the biggest circle is your belly. So this is where I taught you the diaphragmatic breathing, right? With your hands to your sides. You won't have your hands to the sides. But what you will do is you'll start as if you're filling the breath in your belly first. Then what you do is, in a continuous fashion, no stopping, you invite that breath to your middle lobe of your lung. So you'll feel the breath in the middle of the chest. And then finally, when you are done with the breathing, almost like you have taken the entire inhale, I want you to sip a little bit more air, and that breath is going to fill the collarbone. Make sure it doesn't feel strenuous. Make sure it doesn't feel like you're doing a lot of hard work there. It should come easy. So belly, chest, collarbone, and then you release. Belly, chest, collarbone, and then you release. Okay, so that's the three-part breathing that you're going to practice. And then you will stay here. I will guide you through a little meditation. And then finally, we'll come back up, and I have a few more slides to finish up. So that's about next, we'll be on time, next about 25 minutes. Okay, so go ahead and come onto your back. So set yourself up by bringing a pillow under your knees and put a towel or a blanket or something under your head. And whatever we did, like seated or against the wall, you can do the exact same on your back. So making sure your shoulder blades are, you first of all, release the shoulder blades and make sure they are touching evenly to the floor. Then you tuck your chin in towards the chest and lengthen the neck at the back. And once you find yourself in a comfortable supine position, bring your right hand to your belly and left hand to your heart. And I want you to just be aware of the breath here. Don't judge, just watch how you're breathing. Are you breathing into the belly more? Or are you breathing into the chest more? Or are you breathing up into the collarbones? Just observe it. Also notice if there's any tension, especially in the muscles that we talked about, right? We talked a lot about the neck today and the upper shoulder and the chest. Do you feel any tension in these areas in your body? And notice how just the act of noticing that tension gives you the power to relax, even if just a little bit. So can you invite about like 5% relaxation in these areas? Now with your right hand on your belly, left hand on your heart, I want you to begin breathing as if you're going to breathe into the belly. So let your belly expand out as you inhale. Feel the rise and the fall of the belly as you breathe. Make little to no movement with your left hand. So left hand should stay still. Your chest should stay still. Notice the quality of the breath. When you breathe into the belly, does it feel like you're doing a lot of work? Or does it come easy to you? You're going to hear my kids in the background. Just be with it. This is a meditation of the day. Be with the noises in the background. Breathe, go back to the breath. Keep filling in as if your belly is expanding like a balloon. And let that balloon deflate a little bit as you exhale out. Keep breathing this way. And also slowly begin to invite the breath into your left hand. So on the next inhale, breathe into the belly. Breathe about 60% into the belly. And about 40%, 30% of the breath, let it breathe into the chest. You can decide the percentage. Maybe you want to breathe 70% of the belly, only a little bit 30% into your chest. So your right hand should move more than your left hand. but keep it in rhythm. So it should be a smooth transition from the belly, so from your low lung to your middle lung. So the low lobe to the mid lobe. So let's breathe as a community wherever you are. Exhale out. And on your in breath, begin to fill your belly. And then begin to fill your chest. And then exhale out. Do that again. As you breathe in, fill the belly first, then the chest, and then exhale out. Again, inhale, start with the belly, then the chest, and then pause at the top of the inhale and breathe a little bit more air and exhale out. We'll do that again. Breathe into the belly first, then into the chest, and then pause, inhale some more, exhale out. What happens when you inhale some more? Watch your collarbones. Let's do this again. Breathe into the belly, then to the chest, then pause, sip some more air, watch the collarbone, and exhale out. That's the upper collarbone breathing. That's the last sip that you take a little bit. Should not feel strenuous. If it feels like a lot of work, you may not want to do this, but that's the third part of the breath. So low lobe, middle lobe, upper lobe. Notice most of the capacity is the low lobe, least capacity is the upper lobe. So you divide the breath that way. Again, three-part breathing. Breathe into the belly, breathe into the chest, breathing into the collarbone, and then exhaling out whichever way. Some people describe it as exhaling from the collarbone, then chest, then belly. Some people describe the other way around. Whatever way it comes to you, just breathe that way. And I'm going to mute myself here. I'm going to give you a moment here. Just synchronize the breath. Breathe for at least a minute, and I'll unmute myself in a little bit. I'm going to give you some space. And with the practice, I want you to layer one more thing. So with the three-part breath, now begin to layer the physical sensation of the breath. By that I mean, notice how the breath feels as it enters through the nostril. And then also notice how the breath feels as it leaves out through the nostril. So, with your three-part breathing, invite this sensation of the breath at the tips of the nostrils. Now begin to notice with the three-part breath, the sensation of the breath as it passes through the nasal cavity. So notice things like any resistance, notice things like any smell, any sensation or awareness of temperature, coolness or warmness in the air. Can you become aware of the breath at the back of the mouth? Again, going into the physical sensation of the breath at the back of the mouth as you do a three-part breathing. Feeling the breath now at the back of the throat. Next, observing the rise of your chest, the rise of the rib cage, and also the rise of your belly. And finally, becoming aware of the entire body breathing from the tips of your nostrils to your belly. Next, become aware of which nostril is more open. So I want you to close one nostril, breathe through the other, then switch and check whether one nostril is more open than the other. Chances are that one may be slightly more open than the other. I want you to find which nostril is more open. Is it the right or the left? Once you identify which nostril is more open, I want you to turn to the side where the nostril is more open. So turn to the side which nostril is more open. So if the right nostril is more open, turn to the right. If the left is more open, turn to the left into a fetal position. As you feel ready, take your time, transition back to your seat. And as you come to your seat, I want you to check the nostrils again. Quickly do a check. Which nostril is more open now? Just experience if the closed nostril is slightly more open now than when you checked when you were on the back. That's a little trick that you can do if you want to balance the nostril. I know we do alternate nostril breathing, but that's also a good way to just balance the nostril and open the one that is closed. Okay, I have just a few more pages, then I want to open up for some questions. But what I want to talk about is really what I wanted to share today is that breath not only shapes your physical health, it can shape your thoughts and emotions too. And there's no doubt about it. This is scientifically proven, this is experience. We all understand that there's a very tight connection between breathing and emotions. And breath is the most powerful and most accessible holistic health practice. I'm so glad this is, I mean, breath work is catching fire now. This is becoming the new yoga. And I've seen so much activity, so many teachers now, really good teachers teaching breath work around the world. Because it's about time. There's only so much asana we can do, right? We have to climb the ladder. Patanjali's yoga shastras, the 8 limbs are a ladder that we have to climb. We cannot stop at a ladder. So the world has so many asana practitioners now. And this is the calling that we get on the path that we have to go to the next step. And the next step is pranayama, next step is breath. So breathwork is becoming immensely powerful now. And people are recognizing how this is such a powerful tool. And this is free, right? I mean, we can breathe. We're breathing free. I hope it stays like this, that we don't have to pay for the air we breathe. I don't want to see that day. I want to be dead by then. So this is really a free practice that you can invite, and this is powerful holistic practice. And I have spent about 7 years now researching and practicing. And this is what it has come down for me. That I have a system now. I have a method that I teach for breath mastery. And there's a masterclass for that, which I didn't talk about, and I'm not going to go there today, but I just want to tell you this, that there are 5 shifts that I feel deeply connected to, that I have experienced in my life that has completely transformed my life and the direction that my life has taken. And it's just because of exploring how to breathe. And simple practices, there's nothing fancy. Simple practices done repeatedly can bring you enlightenment. It doesn't have to be complicated. So there are these 5 simple shifts that I have come across in my practice that I teach these days to allow people to master their breath. So these shifts teach you to first of all, harness the innate intelligence of the body. So how do you listen to your gut? How do you listen to your heart? These are practices that you can master. And the path to that mastery comes from the breath. Also, how do you release deep trauma? And finally, how do you liberate a reservoir of energy? We all have an untapped source of energy within. We just do not know how to activate it, how to access it. And breath is one of the most powerful tools to unlock that reservoir of energy and allow you to live a healthy and a vibrant life. That's really my mission that I teach. So here's an offer that I want to just put out there. I did that for the masterclass as well. I'm going to do it here. That I want to offer everyone on this call an opportunity to explore this further. So after these sessions, I open my calendar, and you have about 48 hours to, if you wish, to book a one-on-one call with me. And these are free consultation calls. There's no fee, nothing attached to it. I do it as a means to know you, and I also do it as a means to help you out. Where are you stuck? I've talked to many yoga teachers, many coaches. I want to know where you stuck and how can some of these tools that I have shared with you today, how can that help you in unlocking your true potential and really getting you over with some of the physical or emotional challenges that might be holding you back. And here's a simple testimonial. I mean, I can share some of these with you if you guys want to read this through. I don't want to beat my own drum here, but these are powerful sessions. My intention really is to help you. And many people who get on these sessions, within like the 45 minutes and an hour that we have together, they get to experience certain shifts in their life. And that is, I don't charge for any of these services. This is really truly my life's calling to understand who my 1,000 people are. Remember, I talked about my 1,000 people, my inner circle. This is really getting to know you and whether you belong in that group of 1,000 people where we can take these practices to master not only our body but our mind and as well as our emotions. So who is this for? I mean, you all here made a commitment, so I think you all qualify for this. Like, you have to have the highest level of integrity and you have to commit to investing time in these practices. Again, as I said, these are simple practices. There's nothing fancy about it. The trick really is this: can you spend the next 6 months on a daily basis practicing this? Because that's going to allow you to tap into the deeper wisdom. Like, really, it opens the door to a whole new world of possibility that you did not know existed. So if you feel like that's you, I'm going to send you a link after this, and I invite you to take the opportunity without any hesitation, without any reservation. If you feel like this is something that you want to do, go ahead and book a call, right? And we can get on a session and talk about certain things that you can take some of these practices and how can you apply that in your daily practice or help your students, help your clients in their journey. So whether you book the call or not, I just wanted you, I'm so appreciative. I'm so grateful that you all joined this session and you spend this time. I know it's late in Jerusalem, so and around the world, wherever you guys are joining from. So I deeply, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you all for taking the time and taking this opportunity to know me and to talk to me and some of these practices. One final thing I'll say before I also want to take some questions if there are any. If you have not joined the community, we have a little community, a private group. It's called Breath of Yoga. If you're not part of that community, I want you to look it up. Just go to Facebook, type Breath of Yoga, and you will see a picture of a lady doing this, really being happy and breathing. And you may want to come join that group because that's a little community that we have. And it's a private Facebook group. So people only within the group, we share, we don't share things outside. So I invite you to be part of that group if you wish to learn some of these practices further. Again, thank you so much for joining. I wish you all healthy, happy, and safe. Whatever comes ahead of us, let's just stay healthy and safe. All right. Thank you. Namaste.